So we are live on YouTube. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Vermont State Senate Committee on Institutions. Today is April 16th, 2021. Thank heavens it's Friday. We are continuing our conversations about various provisions in the Capitol bill and learning how we are going to divide the bill itself up into committee members in order to make reports on the floor. But there are some details we are working out and trying to catch up on. We have on the committee, myself, Joe Benning is the chair, Senator Mazza from Grand Isle, Senator Ingalls from Essex Orleans, Senator McCormick from Windsor County. We also have on the line with us Senator Parent from Franklin County. And I'm going to pick up right where we got into a controversy yesterday back on the good ship Adirondack and update some information. The chair of the House Committee is seeming to come around on the realization that we cannot have this language in the bill. The request was made, however, yesterday afternoon in some conversation that if we're going to strike it from the bill, there is a subsection D on what I have as page 7, it might be your page 8, that says not more than 10,000 shall be used to open not more than 3 new sites in FY22. She suggested that that language needed to be removed if we were going to have this provision removed. I don't see Becky on the line right now, but I'm somewhat scratching my head over removing that language per se. Although the 10,000 should certainly be struck, I don't know about restricting them from opening new sites. I just want the committee to be aware that there's ongoing conversation about it, but we seem to be making progress in having this eliminated as one of our sources of potential dispute. So having said all that, I'm going to move now to section 15 of the bill. Still,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Dick.
Thanks.
Yep.
Excuse the interruption. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just for point of information, the Natural Resources Committee has basically seen the wisdom of this committee and including I am persuaded that procedurally we can't leave that language in, but we will be taking up the underlying issue in the future regarding the proper use of the lake.
Okay, thank you for reminding me of that. I have not seen any official language, but it is my understanding that Senate Natural, or at least a couple of the committee members, may be bringing an amendment to us that would seek to have enshrined the intent of historic preservation to create rules for potential sinking of boats in the future. And I will await that language, but I'll just let the committee know that that may be coming down the pike, and we'll take a look at it. And I'm not sure that there's any reason for us to disagree, because that's exactly what the intent is of historic preservation as they testify. Becky, I'm sorry, Denise, any news on Becky being in the waiting room, perhaps?
It said that she wouldn't be here till about 1:30, Joe, or Chair, sorry.
Uh-oh.
So
Well,
I have a couple of questions. I thought you were going to talk about Williston and then go in at 1:30 about the rest of the bill.
okay, we could do that. Eric, I understand you've brought us something from the Williston discussion.
Let me see. Well, the best thing I have brought you, Eric Philcorn, Buildings and General Services, for the Williston discussion is our Deputy Commissioner, Mark O'Grady, who until recently was our head of property management and is our in-house real estate guru. And so I would put him forward, and then I will also tap dance a little bit and try and pull up the language.
That would be most helpful. And for committee's recollection, we had some conversation a few days ago about the present Williston Barracks and whether or not it would be advisable to put that in the queue, if you will, for sale purposes. I understand Mark O'Grady is going to have some conversation with us about that. There is some language that is going to be presented about that. I should have asked Eric, have you guys had this discussion with Alice as well?
I spoke directly with Alice and she said to me that it was okay to go forward with you guys. We were gonna give them a drive-by this morning, but they got delayed by the floor. So she said we could come in next week and just update her committee.
Okay. So Mark, welcome back.
Good afternoon, Mark O'Grady, Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Buildings and General Services. Thank you for having me. Yes, BGS would like to sell the Williston Police Barracks or receive permission to sell the Williston Police Barracks now and lease back the building during construction. We feel like that would put us in a good position for a few reasons. We would receive obviously the sale proceeds now, but also we think it's more attractive to a potential investor to have some income while they are in fact trying to secure permits for redevelopment. The state also, if we divest it sooner than later, will not have to pay any holding costs once our new building is built and we are then relocated into our new home, and we're ready to go. We would approach this from a little bit differently than we have other properties that have sold at BGS, and I've only been involved with a few, but we would do a fairly robust internal marketing process to cast a wide net regionally. This is a very unique opportunity to have a well-placed asset, high value piece of land, very well located in Chittenden County. The great part about this is we don't have to sell. So we can market the property via the statute, but the Commissioner of Buildings and General Services has the right to reject any and all bids. So if there is not an offer that is intriguing to us, we don't accept it and we move on. But I believe that providing an investor with the opportunity to have short-term income while they are securing permits is something that doesn't happen very often in these types of properties, especially when your short-term tenant is the state of Vermont. Is a big upside. Our lease term would be 2 to 3 years with a 90-day termination clause. Probably after 180 days, I think the construction schedule is 2.5 years. We'd also have a renewal option. We would not execute or look to market the property until we have a secure construction schedule and we know that we have a better understanding of when the new barracks will be built, and basically when we start site prep. So we had the property appraised back in January of 2017, and the value was $2.56 million. I'm confident that the value is higher than that in present day. It's 4 years ago. It is the only piece of land on the easterly side of, I think it's Route 2A, St. George Road, between the interstate exit and Taft's Corners, that is really undeveloped. And I think it would be very attractive to a lot of people. I see a development similar to the small little out parcel that was developed by Costco, three or four little national tenants right there. So it's a great opportunity for us, and I think that we should take advantage of it. And again, I believe that the value, I think the cost, the price for the property will be greater now, given the opportunity for the investor to have some short-term income.
So just to back up a half a step, you referred to while construction is going on, just for the benefit of the millions who may be watching us on YouTube, we have already made the decision to build a new state police barracks in Williston, and we are in the process of planning and eventually building that. So when you referred to construction, that's the project that you were referring to. And in the same time, the current Williston barracks is going to have something done with it. So the idea here is we sell it to a third party, lease it back for ourselves to continue running the operations until the new building is built. That summarize it?
Very much, Senator. And again, the lease terms will be very favorable to the state. So we can terminate within 90 days after a certain time. We know that construction is going to be a couple of years. So we can guarantee the prospective purchaser a certain time frame, but we want the flex. If there's a delay in construction, we run into something that was unforeseen, we have that extension period, so we're never without a home. But if construction is accelerated, we have the ability to get to occupy prior to our original date, we can terminate the lease within 90 days.
Okay. Senator Mazur, are you winding up for a
Yeah.
question?
I just want to, it is a very, very great piece of property right off the interstate. Maple Tree Place is there. And I can assure everyone, he's correct by saying the value is much higher today. Values are gone crazy, and that's the only piece of land that's available in that area. So it will bring I just hope they get the maximum money for it, because it certainly will bring a high value in the last couple of years, because you said that back in 2017. So this will be a lot higher today, but it's a choice piece of property. It was an old barn. They'll tear it down. Naturally, it was an old warehouse at one time, but the land is, I don't know how many acres are there. Is there a couple acres or?
1 point something. Let me bring up the old appraisal.
I think it was,
Oh, I have it here. I have the assessor's card. I believe it is, I think it's in 2.8 acres.
okay, because that's what they.
It's a nice,
Yeah, the building is not worth anything, but the land is very valuable. Yeah. Thank you.
Just squeaks in under that 3-acre impervious surface problem. Do you have language to present to us today, Mark, or is that Eric?
I put the language in the meeting chat and I also emailed it to Denise. So, or I can put it up on screen if she gives me.
Probably should be put up on the screen for the benefit of anybody watching on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let me see.
Senator Ingalls.
Just asking, everything that's been said is correct. Real estate values are going crazy, and what's the benefit of selling it now and leasing it back and taking some of your profits that you make and turning it back into a lease if you don't have to sell it? Why not wait until after you're done with the building and market it then and keep 100% of the proceeds to be put elsewhere? I just didn't know what the thinking would be for that.
I feel like with the short term, income, that will be very attractive to an investor, because once we vacate and we sell, the land could be worth less because they're going to have to factor in holding costs while they secure permits. In this instance, they won't have that. So it certainly is a benefit to them knowing that they have this lease proceeds coming in. So it's not just sitting idle, them paying taxes, et cetera. So there's certainly a value to that. And again, the key piece is if we're not seeing bids that we feel are reasonable for such a rare property, then we don't accept them.
That answer your question, Russ?
Yep, thanks.
Okay. Eric, I have no idea how you managed to get 2 pieces of language side by side like that, but
I think that might have been Denise,
huh.
or maybe, I don't know, but there it is. I hope that's the right piece of language. Yes, it is. It's pretty straightforward.
There
This
we
is-
go.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just reading the language and I don't see anything for myself being red flagged. Anybody have any problems with that?
Mr. Chair, what would be the time that, for example, if this was passed, could she sell it like July 1st, or should we wait a year or because we've got about what, 2 years down the road or 3 years of completion of the new barracks? Is there a time that it goes on the market or should we wait? I'm just curious.
Mark or Eric, you want to talk about that?
Sure. I would feel more comfortable if we waited until at least we broke ground on our new facility, so we know that we're moving forward with all moving forward quickly.
Because you never know what's going to happen on a new facility. And I
Yeah.
hate, like Senator Ingles said, I'd hate to rent something back for 3 years when you don't have
Exactly.
to. You rent it back for 1 year or 18 months because we'd have to determine the rent, whether it's going to be 10,000 a month or we have to come up with those figures. So I wouldn't want it too soon. That's just my.
Yep. Yeah, we want to make sure we protect ourselves.
Right.
And also when the thinking behind the marketing and really trying to reach far and wide, given the fact that it's likely going to be a regional developer that's interested in this, that has connections with national tenants. We would keep the bid window open longer than typical to make sure that we are able to reach those folks that might be interested in participating.
Does this language have to be changed in any way? Not to be sold prior to whatever or something? Because this is a pretty open language right now. It just says authorized to sell property. That could be July 2nd.
I think, but Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
this language would yes, it authorizes BGS to sell. And, you know, in the same way that you delegate authority to agencies to issue permits and the like, you would be relying on the property management team at BGS to choose the right window in which to execute a sale or market the property. And, you know, it's incumbent on us to act in the best interests of our tenant, the Vermont State Police and Fish and Wildlife and the other folks who are in there, to make sure that we do it in a way that isn't going to hurt us or our tenant. And so, yes, you are handing that over to us. It's almost the opposite of the Green Mountain Club type deal where they go and buy land when it's available and come back to you. We're asking your permission to sell the land when the time is right in the judgment of Mark O'Grady and our property management team.
The head of the team is Mark O'Grady, though, not you, Eric.
Absolutely not. You don't want me anywhere near real estate.
Because you left out a component there. Your client is sort of not the state police. It might actually be the legislature in this case.
Well, our tenant, anyway.
Yes, your tenant. Yes, I understand. Any other, well, let's ask this the other way. Is there a need to have this language now as opposed to January when we do an adjustment on the capital bill?
It would be kicking it all out a year.
I'm nervous of having it too soon. That's just my personal opinion. Not that I don't trust anybody, but it just puts the availability of the product of the property on sale July 1st, if in fact that's what's decided. And I'm a little nervous about that, knowing that it could be a 3-year deal, because the temptation to sell something now, the market's high, but is that the right way we want to go, not knowing what the state police barrack is going to run into with their, even though we're funding it, there's still permitting, I'm sure, to go through. And but that's just, I don't know, maybe I'm too nervous about this. But.
Well, it's not something to ignore, that's for sure. I don't know how far you want to carry the message at this moment in time. Do we have faith in the team making the decision at the right moment under the right circumstances, I guess is what it boils down to. And you can always ask them to come back after January, but Eric is right. There's another component to that, as I see it. The market may actually go down when COVID is behind us. That plot may hold its value because of its location, but there's always the gamble that you take on the other side of it, that you may not get as much as you could have had you acted sooner. But I'm thinking that that's a decision that we have to sort of delegate into the hands of the team. And I'm anxious to hear what other folks on the committee are thinking about there.
I don't think that you have to worry about that piece of property going down anytime soon, no matter what goes on. It's
There.
last piece of the grand prize in that whole strip.
What's the administration's feeling towards this? Has this been run across administration?
Yes.
So yes, it has, but what's the answer?
Excuse me, my phone's ringing. Mark, I would yield to you. You're closer to the conversation, but my understanding is it's gone up and down the chain and we're back here with the language.
Yes, they support it. They recognize that it's a unique opportunity, that we may be able to get a greater premium, because savvy developers do recognize that holding property is expensive while they secure permits. This gives them at least, it could give them a year, could give them 18 months of rent proceeds or rental income that's going to help them out, because it will take time for them to get to secure their permits.
What are you assuming the rental income would be? You have any idea, ballpark, what you thought that you'd be paying for rent every month?
No. So what I was thinking, my approach would be when we'll have the property reappraised, in that there would also be a fair market rental value established for the property as is. And that those would be the numbers that we would work from.
Because no one else would rent it at that point. It would be just because, like I said, it's not suitable for anything outside of storage and what they've pieced together. It's just a old building, so it's not good for retail. It's not good for anything. I think the only ones that would stay would be the state police and Fish and Wildlife and storage for boats. So I don't know. It's not a rentable property, I don't think, for anything else for a short period of time.
No, it would be a tear down right away.
Yeah.
They would want it out of their way in site prep for the redevelopment.
Yeah.
In our leaseback scenario, we could even propose a rent what we think is fair as part of the deal. So there's lots of ways to frame it. We're not often in these situations where we have these unique opportunities to get out in front and capitalize on this. And again, I think the important thing to point out is the fact that we don't have to sell. If we're not receiving offers that meet our expectations, then we just shelf it. We understand the risks loud and clear, and we do not want to be without a home, and we don't want to pay rent if we don't have to. So we are definitely aware of the timing of this as well.
And Mr. Chairman, on the other side of that, if we have the flexibility to make a deal that is structured so that a new owner is taking possession as we're leaving, but has assurance that they will actually control the property, then they can go after their permits, they can go after their design, they can lease it to Trader Joe's or PetSmart or whatever, whoever's going to be in there, so they can set themselves up to warm up their bulldozers as we're heading out. And Williston will have less time with a vacant old building. We're in a better position to be sure that we're not holding a vacant old building and paying to maintain security and the like on that site. So it gives us a better opportunity to make a graceful exit, leave the community in a good place, and make a good deal.
So at the end of the day, Senator Mazza, I'm going to say that your concern is a valid one. I'm going to hope that BGS has heard the message of concern, but I'm going to default, at least for this purpose, into the concept that BGS does have a fiduciary responsibility to the legislative branch and is in the best position to decide when they're going to sell, if they're going to sell, and how to make a contract that works in the best interest of the state. So unless I hear any strenuous objections, I'm going to hope that the question has been brought up, answered, and we're going to place our faith in the people that we have delegated the responsibilities to make sure the state's best interests are kept in heart. With that, Becky, you're on the line. Can you tell us what has to happen here in order for this language to be incorporated? You're muted at the moment.
I just need your say so and I can include it in an amendment. So I will, it sounds like that's what the committee has decided.
Well, I haven't taken a vote. Would you like to take a vote, committee? Anybody want to vote? This is not a group that makes quick decisions, that's for sure. I'm going to say yes. I think there's consensus. So I'm going to have you walk through the rest of the bill this afternoon, Beck, and I'm planning on us voting on whatever we end up with for language next week. Kristen Carlson is, our closer, is going to be presenting some language as well. But at the beginning of the meeting on Tuesday, I'd like to have her presentation. And then hopefully we have something that can be incorporated into the document quick enough so that we can vote on it on Tuesday. Okay, we're going back into the bill itself to continue our conversation. And I understand we're starting with section 15. Senator Parent, it's you and me who are left on the table as to who wants what sections. And I'm going to suggest that section 15, Department of Labor, might be right up your alley.
Sure, I'll do it.
So Beck, if you would continue walking us through, please.
Sure. Becky Wasserman, Legislative Counsel. Before I begin, can I just ask what time you all are going to today? Because I am coordinating another testimony, so I just want to.
Okay, this group on a Friday afternoon, if they're not out of here by 3 o'clock, I'm in deep trouble. Does that answer your question?
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, so section 15, Department of Labor. So just, just to orient everyone, we're on H438, the Capitol Bill, section 15. So this section has the FY22 and 23 appropriations for Department of Labor, which are going directly to BGS for the work. And the work here is upgrades of mechanical systems and HVAC, life safety needs, and minor interior renovations at 5 Green Mountain Drive in Montpelier. That's the Department of Labor office location.
Okay.
Okay, so there's 1.5 appropriated in total for both years. Section 16 has the appropriations for FY22 and 23 to VHCB. So this is 1.8 million in each year for housing and conservation projects.
All righty.
Section 17 is Agency of Digital Services. There is 125,000 appropriated in each year for digital orthophotography mapping.
Oh, by the way, if anybody has any questions or comments, whatever, be verbal about it because I'm not necessarily watching the screen. Okay.
So the next section is the reallocation section. So these are amounts that were appropriated in previous capital bills that were not expended. So what this section is doing is it's taking the remaining amount, the unexpended amounts from those appropriations and sort of putting it back into the bottom line for the capital bill. for this year. So there are a number of references to past capital bill appropriations, and they are separated out by the department or agency in which they were appropriated to. So subsection A has prior capital appropriations to BGS. And so some of the examples here are 111 State Street, and there's a larger reallocation for the Windsor for costs to renovate the space at the former Southeast State Correctional Facility.
So if I can just interject, these reallocations fall into two categories. One is that the project was completed for less money. The other is that decisions have been made that either the project is not going forward or has been redesigned in such a way that it costs less money. Is there another category I'd be missing?
This
I'm
is the
gonna-
fiscal couch cushions.
I think that basically this is Catherine
Yeah.
Denham in the Joint Fiscal Office. I think you basically captured the concept.
Okay, so when Corey is reporting on it, he doesn't get asked a specific question about some senator's district project. I don't want him to be hamstrung into trying to figure out what exactly happened there. I just want to float out that warning, Corey, if you're reporting this section.
The only one that might be a curiosity is the Vermont Telecommunications Authority money, right?
Okay,
And I think that the VTA was dissolved and the money was unspent, and it has since reconstituted as something else. But that money has been sitting for a while. So
That's right. There were the VTA dissolved, and this was money that was appropriated to them. That was a couple years ago reallocated. I think it was in 2017 for broadband expansion to the Department of Public Service. They never used it for that purpose. So it was sort of again just reallocated to the bottom line of the capital bill in this year, because I think the Department of Public Service said that they wouldn't be using that money.
good question for Catherine. How often does JFO go through all those dollars that are supposed to be hanging out there for projects and figuring out how much is actually sitting in dust somewhere?
Well, I do get a report usually January, February from Finance Management on all capital bill projects that have unspent funds. And
There's a statutory requirement.
yeah, they have to report it. So, they can spit out the report. It's a report out of their system. And the governor obviously likely does the same thing. I don't really know who in his office does it. And that's, they come up with their list, but I do look at it and there's a subcommittee in the House that goes through it also and gets invited. And some people come in and testify about it. And that all of the red numbers, some of those they're all changed from the governor. Some of them were new, some of them were just corrections to numbers.
So the subcommittee in the House you're talking about is a subcommittee of the House Committee on Corrections and Institutions?
the
Yes.
repo committee.
Is that generally comprised of newbies?
No,
No.
It's
It's
a
too
mix.
bad, because Senator Mazza had an idea there for developing a subcommittee and sending them on a search.
A sniper.
Anyway, moving on.
Okay. So I can just highlight some of these other reallocations for you. There's approximately 250 that was allocated for the Agency of Human Services in subsection B for Justice Reinvestment 2. There are some larger amounts that were appropriated to the Department of Labor for in a capital equipment grant program. I think that totals probably about, I don't know, it's subdivisions 1, 2, and 3, I believe, for subsection C. Not going to do math, but a lot of money. Subsection D, there was also a school safety and security grant program in the capital bill in 2017 and 2018, and those funds were reallocated as well. So that's approximately 1.5 million. And then finally, there's the VTA, approximately 900,000. That money is reallocated in subsection E.
So Corey, if you're going to handle this particular section, this is also for Dick McCormick and Russ. When you're going through a section, you don't need to talk about every single itemized thing in your section, because we'll be here for 2 hours reporting the bill on the floor. What you really want to do is pick 2 or 3, maybe 4 highlights that may be hot topics of conversation in general, and then just alert the body to what it is this bill is taking care of in that conversation. But I really want to stress, we are not going to walk through this line by line on the floor, because it will take hours to get through the bill. If people have questions, you obviously need to be able to answer those questions, but really just pick less than a handful to talk about and highlight, just so people know we're on top of current events.
And I'm sure Catherine will help you with a little, or Rebecca with a little notes for background knowledge. I always rely on those.
On this section, Chair, where's
Yep.
the other $1 million come from? The $1,087,365. After, I mean, looking at what was there for reallocation, and we've gained a little over $1 million. Where's that money come from?
Catherine, you want to answer that?
Yes, the increase, so we basically have $1 million more dollars than the governor had from all of the, if you're looking at the spreadsheet, all of the cells that are highlighted in red are different. Actually, if you look at column J, it shows the difference from the governor. So the first 2 were just the switching the numbers, they were assigned wrong, but the rest of them you see on line 142, you have another 249,000 more than the governor did. And that was just that was a new reallocation. If I drop down to line 144, the governor had a number in there, but they actually found out there was another 33,000 available. So that was an increase of 33,000. And if you look through those, the total increase over the governor is an additional $1 million. And those are all, once again, the old projects that have money for a variety of reasons available to be spent.
It's once they scrubbed the accounts, they found that money was just sitting there and it wasn't accounted for. The governor hadn't accounted for it. Okay, thank you.
Right. So what happens is we on the executive branch side lock our budget or lock these numbers in around, late December, Christmas time, maybe early January, and we go to press January 18th or so. And then between then and April, things come up, projects conclude, and sometimes there's more money out there once the repo committee shakes us down.
Makes sense.
Russ, while you're staring at the spreadsheet, just so you know, when we make changes to anything, our changes will appear in those cells in green highlight, so that it makes it easier as you're explaining things. If you need to look quickly across the spreadsheet, you'll know what the governor's recommend was, what the House did to that, and what we did to the House version. But you'll see a third color by the time we get to the end result.
I'll be lucky if I don't see 7 colors, Chair.
It always pays not to drink before you report this bill on the floor. Okay, Beck. Section 19.
Section 19. So this section is where the bill is authorizing the treasurer to issue the amount that's needed to pay for all the projects in the bill through issuing general obligation bonds. So the treasurer is authorized to issue 123,180,000 for the purposes of funding all the appropriations in the act. The treasurer, with the approval of the governor, determines the appropriate form and maturity of the bonds that are authorized in the act. And the treasurer can allocate the estimated cost of bond issuance or issuances to the entities to which the funds are appropriated. So this is just sort of giving the treasurer the authority to bond for when the projects are, when the money is needed, and appropriate the costs accordingly. And just as a reminder, the amount that is in here, that approximately 123 million, is the amount that's was recommended to the General Assembly from the Capital
CDAC.
Debt, CDAC, yeah.
Affordability Committee.
So that comes every biennium that they give an amount that can be used, or that they recommend the General Assembly use when they put together the capital bill.
Okay, Corey, are you okay going through section 18?
Sorry, I'm on mute. Yeah, I can do section 18.
All right, I'll pick up on section 19 and probably take it to the end. So that answers that question of who's got what. Anybody have any issues or want to discuss anything else someplace? Senator McCormick.
Yeah, just not that I'm hungry for more work, but I want to make sure I'm holding up my end. I only have 2 sections. Is anyone feeling burdened? I can take another section probably.
Well, we figured you were going to introduce some historical perspective to all those sections. So it'd probably take you
I'll be
longer
happy.
than
No,
everybody else.
I was trying to catch up with you today. I didn't know what you and Becca, I didn't know what you were doing there.
Well,
There was a panel or something tomorrow night we have to respect?
no, Sunday night is
Oh.
the anniversary of the midnight ride of Paul Revere.
Is that a special holiday or something?
And the other guy.
No, it's a thing that we as patriotic Americans take note of.
Oh, okay. I can't put a sign up. I got a special on Hamburg or something that relates to that. Or,
Lexington Concord Day, yeah. Paul Revere Day.
I don't know.
He did it on it. He did it on his John Deere tractor.
All right. It's getting late. Section 20. Don't worry, Dick McCormick. We'll figure it out. If there's something in here, some in the rest of this conversation that I want to take a break on, I'll bump it over to you. How's
It's
that?
not like I want more work. I'm just
I
wanting
know.
to be honest that I'm available.
All right, so we're into policy now.
Okay, so the policy section of the bill. Section 20 is creating a study committee to look at how to use the property where the former Southeast State Correctional Facility was located in Windsor. And so the purpose of this committee is to recommend potential uses for that property. The committee had, oh, sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
Okay. The committee has a diverse membership that includes someone appointed by the Town of Windsor Select Board, the executive director of the Mount Escutney Regional Commission, commissioner of BGS, secretary of agriculture, the executive director of VHCB, the secretary of commerce and community development, and the secretary of natural resources. So the committee is looking at reviewing options for the uses of that land. And as part of their review, they're being asked to look at a number of reports that have been done previously with respect to that property. So there was a 2017 report on transitional housing. There was an Agency of Human Services facilities report in 2018, and then a report specifically on the Southeast State Correctional Facility from 2018 as well. Eric is providing the administrative, technical, and legal assistance to the committee.
We don't have a lawyer. Is that going to be a problem? We have an AG that's
Well,
assigned
the
to us,
AG,
but we
yeah.
don't. Okay.
It's not specifically Eric. It says Department of VGS, which uses the AG's office.
I just wanted to make sure you're authorized to commit the AG, because I don't know that we are. Every time we try to sell this place, they make us do another study.
That seems to be a common habit in the legislature.
They're just trying to sell your office.
I want to study that.
All right,
So a report is due, on subsection E by December 15th of this year, which will go to your committee and House institutions. The Commissioner of BGS calls the first meeting of the committee by July 15th, and the Executive Director of the Regional Planning Commission is the chair of the committee. Majority of the membership constitutes a quorum, and this committee ceases to exist on July 1st of next year. If any non-state employees on the committee are entitled to per diem compensation and reimbursement, and that is coming out of, I believe, the major maintenance funds for BGS.
okay,
So
Section-
don't round them.
Section 21 of the bill deals with the relocation of the New Haven Depot building. So subsection A has some findings with respect to ownership of that building and the land. So the building is owned by the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, the Division of Historic Preservation, pursuant to an executive order from 1975. And the land is owned by AOT pursuant to a 1983 executive order.
I did have, we had a good overview from Trini Broussard at the Agency of Transportation the other day to our committee. And she's right on top of it, and they're making progress with the community of where to put it and how much it's gonna cost to move it. So,
good.
we're working on it.
I would like to be able to say that our committee is in favor of preserving as much Vermont history as possible.
It will be preserved. There's no doubt in my mind. It's just finding the right location. They'd like to move it back, but there's wetlands. They can't do that.
Yeah.
Another location, then there's to move it, and it costs about $400,000 to move it, which is because it's brick and it's been there a long time. So but they got their act together. But it will 100% be preserved. Yep.
Great.
You just got to find a use for it, whether it's going to be open to the public or a museum or, a welcome center or whatever. But the town is very involved, and Trini's been working with them. So
I hope none of the bricks start to.
I know.
fall apart.
I asked them, how can you move a building like that with those bricks have been there for I don't know how many years, and it's not wood. There's no wood to it. It's just the roof. And they said it can be done. Boy, I just don't know how they can do that. It's just amazing.
Well,
I would
the,
think the whole thing crumble when you touch the bottom.
right. The building that I'm in was built in 1870,
Wow.
and it's a 16-room building, but there was about a 5.5-foot section of brick on the one foundation side that I just literally had replaced this week. $3,300 just for that
Oh, I bet.
little section of brick.
Did it match?
He actually did a pretty good job. I mean, he used all the same bricks that were there,
Oh, okay.
and he managed to get the color of the mortar in between to come pretty close to the rest of the building. So I was very happy about it.
Oh. That's an hour in a courtroom for that kind of money, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a little bit. Might have to work Saturday morning to finish that one up. All right, Beck.
So in subsection B, the Secretary of Transportation and the Director of the Division for Historic Preservation are authorized to look into how to best preserve the building by relocating it. Subdivision 2 gives the Commissioner of BGS the authority to execute a quitclaim deed to transfer any existing or future interest in the building, but that has to be subject to a preservation easement to be held by the Division of Historic Preservation. Subsection C says if the State Historic Preservation Officer and the Secretary of Transportation determine that it's not financially or physically practical to relocate the building, then the State Historic Preservation Officer would work with BGS and the transportation to figure out how to decommission the building and delist it from the National Register of Historic Places.
That's the famous tear it down clause.
Said in a much nicer way.
Yeah, I'm almost tempted to say, let's get that clause out of there, but
We could wreath it.
hey, there's an idea.
Sorry.
That's good. No, I like that kind of humor on a Friday afternoon. Eric.
Or make it into a skidder bridge.
Where's John Rogers when you need him?
The Skinner bridges. Oh my God. We got more Skinner bridges up there.
All right, Beck, let's keep going.
Okay, so the next few sections are really hard to figure out what they're saying, so I will.
Which means there will be no translation whatsoever when it comes to the floor conversation.
So really what they're doing is amending past capital bills, amending some language in past capital bills. So section 22 is amending the 2018 capital bill, which had an appropriation for renovating space at 133 State Street. And this is just a technical amendment because it is just striking out the reference to ADS, which is not where that space was located. Section 23 is extending the sunset date for the Capitol Complex Security Advisory Committee.
I better write that one down. And
You
we
guys have
ought-
a big project, right?
Well, yeah, we ought to talk about that a little bit.
So that date is being extended from the committee ceasing to exist this June 30th to June 30th, 2023. So an extra 2
committee,
years.
There's this entity called the Capitol Complex Security Advisory Committee. 2 legislators are on that, the chair of this body and the chair of the House counterpart. The rest of the group is made up of all law enforcement entities that may be connected to the Capitol building and the Capitol complex, including the Vermont State Police, the Sheriff's Department for Washington County, the Montpelier Police, the Capitol Police, obviously. And they meet not very frequently to have conversation about how things are going. We have passed out of the Senate, they're still working on it over on the House side, S30, which is a gun bill. It prevents anyone from carrying a gun into a hospital. You may recall that. But there was a second part of that bill, which was directing the Capitol Complex Security Committee to meet and discuss basically how things are going with respect to weapons within the Capitol complex. Now, just so you know, the Capitol complex runs from the north branch of the Winooski River up past the state Capitol building to a residential area behind it. That's the easy way of describing it. It also runs out to the end of Baldwin Street on one side, and I think I'm pretty sure it's Governor Aiken on the other side. The nutshell is it's a big area, and the directive is for this advisory committee to study and do a report on and decide whether any recommended legislation would be necessary with respect to guns in that area. There's a couple of problems that I see. First off, as some of you may know, I was adamantly opposed to that portion of the bill. The other is that there is restricted meeting time for this group to meet during the off-session hours. that is going to get squeezed because we don't know yet whether A, the House will pass the bill, or B, the governor will veto the bill. In which case, even if the language is in there, unless and until those two pieces get ironed out, if it all passes, the date for that to be done is going to squeeze this committee even more. Having the committee investigate residential homes and what's going on there within that Capitol complex has me very nervous. But I anticipate the expectation of the Judiciary Committee, or at least two members of that committee, is that we are going to be talking about the Capitol building and the front lawn. And they want some recommendations about what to do there. So eventually this committee may end up in that conversation somehow. And I don't know where anybody's going to want to go with the conversation, but I'm very nervous about this advisory committee being sent with marching orders to come back with a report. I think the report is due in December, and have some recommendations for legislation if it's deemed necessary. For what it's worth, during the committee testimony in Judiciary about this subject, the Capitol Police, Mike Sherling, and the Montpelier Police, I can't remember if the state police were in this conversation too, but they all came in and said, as far as they were concerned, they didn't think there was a need for the bill that originally had proposed no weapons in the State House, because they already have the ability to arrest someone if someone is in the State House, is told they have to leave if they're carrying a gun, and they don't. That would be an unlawful trespass. So they testified that any new language would be redundant and was not necessary. I anticipate one of our colleagues pushing very hard to have a conversation about getting a prohibition on guns in the State House as well as the front lawn, at the very least. So this is going to become a little more substantive as we go on. I want you to be aware that this committee may be involved in that conversation because the report is due back to not just this committee, but I believe also to Judiciary. That's the long and the short of it. And unfortunately, the really long way of explaining, I really don't want to do that work if I can avoid it, but I may be put into the position of it. So, having said that, I know that this particular section is reconstituting the Capital Advisory Committee. The reconstitution, as I understand it, would take place in January. Is that true? Because right now, the chair of that committee is me. You reconstitute it, it goes over to Alice Emmons. And that means I'm responsible directly for this report that they want to have between now and December. Which is why I'm also keeping my fingers crossed that either the House will reject at least this portion of the bill or the governor will veto it. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe we'll all get to go home before it happens. Motion to adjourn.
I get into trouble, Eric, if I go down this road any further than where I've gone already.
I think
So-
BGS is your constant companion on that committee too, so.
That's true. Except you guys aren't the ones holding the guns. I usually pay more attention to the ones that are holding the guns in the room, so. Anyhow,
In a locker.
we are on to section 24.
Section 24 of the bill is again extending a sunset. This is the date that indicates when expenses for engineering costs will be transferred from the capital bill to the general fund. So this is being pushed out again to July 1st, 2023.
In other words, we've kicked the can down the road again. Do you suppose, Dick Mazza, in our legislative lifetime, this issue will ever be resolved?
What's that on the,
The engineering costs being incorporated into the capital bill as opposed to the operations and the,
God, I don't think so. I don't think so. Gee.
okay.
Like the can has been kicked since 2013, so why stop now?
It's going to take place when we adjust the pension plan for the state.
It's keeping Joe Asia off your couch.
That's right.
It's in the same pool.
All right, section 25.
So section 25 and 26 deal with federal funds. I think you might be hearing some new language on this, but I'll go over what is in here right now. So there are two pots of capital dollars that impact, that are coming from the ARPA, from the American Rescue Plan Act, that could impact the capital bill. So the first is from the state and local coronavirus fiscal recovery funds, and that's what this section 25 is addressing. There's language in the amount appropriated in that fund that says that those funds can be used for water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. There is no broadband infrastructure appropriated in this bill right now, so that is why it's not referenced. So this section is looking at water and sewer infrastructure because there are those appropriations right now in the capital bill.
So that's fiscal year anyway. We're not gonna deal with broadband.
In the capital bill.
In the capital bill, right,
Right.
okay.
So the intent here is in subsection A is that to the extent permitted by federal law and guidance, and this is a big, sort of if here, because we don't yet have federal guidance on the use of these funds. But to the extent it's permitted, the amount that's appropriated in the act should be offset using federal funds from the American Rescue Plan Act, from this pot of money that can be used for water and sewer infrastructure whenever possible. And any amount that's offset shall be used for future capital construction projects in the budget adjustment process. So if any money is that was appropriated in FY22 is switched out for federal funds, that just sort of pushes the state dollars to be used in the budget adjustment process.
But still only for water and sewer, not for broadband.
Yes, because there are no appropriations in this bill to offset for broadband.
Okay.
So this process sets forth, the process set forth here is saying that the Commissioner of Finance and Management can determine that any of the FY22 appropriations for water and sewer may be offset with these federal funds and can substitute federal funds for capital funds. If that happens, the Commissioner notifies the chairs of the two institutions committees that this money was substituted. And any funds offset, as I mentioned, would be then sort of pushed to be used for the budget adjustment bill in January.
Can I ask you about the last sentence in subsection A?
Sure.
Says any appropriation so offset shall be used for future capital construction projects in the fiscal year 22. Should that be 23?
I think it probably should be 22-23 capital budget process, because you can also be amending appropriations from 20. It's still going to be in FY22, so I can change that to clarify that would be 22 and 23
I
appropriations.
think it would be helpful because you're talking about a capital budget adjustment process there, and we're not going to be doing that. Well, I'll leave it at that.
So subsection C has a reporting requirement. So by December 15th of this year, The commissioner is going to review and recommend any projects funded in the second year of the biennium that can be sort of offset and give that recommended list of substitutions to the chairs of the House and Senate Institutions Committees and to the governor to be included in the capital budget adjustment proposal that next January. And there's also some guardrails around what can be substituted here in subsection D. So there's not more than 30 million reserved for substitution by the Commissioner of Finance and Management. And so that, and then further, there's only 15 million in FY22 that can be substituted, and any remaining amounts would be able to be substituted in the second year of the biennium. So it's not more than 30 million altogether, not more than 15 million in the first year.
Okay.
Section 26 deals with another pot of capital dollars in the American Rescue Plan Act, and that is the Coronavirus Capital Projects Fund. And I believe Vermont is getting approximately 113 million under that that fund allocation to the state.
Yep.
So the intent section is similar here, that to the extent permitted by law and guidance, that pot of money shall be used for capital projects necessary for the executive, legislative, and judicial branches in response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Can I ask you, the state and local coronavirus fiscal recovery funds, could you tell me again what the number was that was expected, the amount?
I don't know if Catherine, it's about $1 billion, isn't
$1
it?
billion on the big thing.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's just to the state. I mean, there's more money coming in other ways as well. Collectively as a state, some individuals are getting federal money directly. So it's more than that statewide, but what we're doing is $1 billion.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Subsection B has some designated uses for this amount of money coming from the Capital Projects Fund. So it designates 62 million to the executive branch for to be allocated to the Agency of Human Services for mental health and correctional infrastructure. And then the 51 million is allocated to infrastructure for the legislative and judicial branches.
Catherine, just so you know, I left a message on Jane's voicemail that Alice and I had a conversation about that second year being sort of just parked someplace. And I told her that I let Jane the message that that was not something that was going to be looked favorable upon. I did not want to get into a battle with the House over that question. So I suggested Jane was going to have to find it someplace else. If you hear she's cursing about me, let me know and I'll go and talk to her some more. Okay.
Okay. Subsection C sets out a process for recommended use of these funds. So for the AHS, the 62 million, by December 15th, the Commissioner of Finance and Management will submit recommendations to the institutions committees and then to the governor for inclusion in the governor's proposed capital budget adjustment report. And then in subdivision 2, for the legislative and judicial branches, there's the Joint Legislative Management Committee submitting recommendations for the legislative branch and the court administrator submitting recommendations for the judiciary to the 2 institutions committees for consideration in the Capital Budget Adjustment Act.
Okay.
And the dates are for that are January 15th for the the legislative and judicial recommendations. And the December 15th date, I think, was picked because it was contemplating it being in the governor's proposed budget report. So it had to be a little bit earlier to be included in there.
All right.
Page 29, sections 27 and 28 is some policy language with respect to the replacement, the secure residential recovery facility. So section 27 is just intent language. It says that any proposal offered by DMH to expand a state-owned or operated facility or capacity at a state-owned or operated facility in Vermont's mental health system should always include or identify resources to support Vermont's community mental health system.
Yep.
Section 28 is having DMH issue a request for information by August 1st from designated and specialized service agencies and peer-run agencies for developing and implementing programming for unlocked community residences for transitional support for individuals being discharged from inpatient psychiatric care or for intervention to prevent inpatient care. The responses on this ROI are due back by December 1st and have to include provisions that address developing and implementing community residential programming for youth.
You know why they waited until August to issue the RFP?
I don't know. It
Eric?
looks like Eric knows.
Well, I can't give you exactly why, but I can recount that the original proposed date from House Healthcare was July 1st. And DMH felt that that date was too aggressive for them putting the package together and getting it out the door. And so the date was pushed out to that just to make it administratively achievable, I think.
Okay. Let's keep going.
Okay. So DMH is in subsection B is being asked to convene a steering group of interested stakeholders to provide input to the department's prioritization process in determining the area of highest need across the mental health system of care. And this is with regard to any additional bed proposals that are coming in with the ROI process. Subsection C has a reporting requirement that by December 15th, which would include a review of all the responses received in the ROI process, a beds needs assessment for all levels of care, a summary of input provided by the stakeholder steering group, and an analysis of any opportunities to use federal fund, ARPA funds for capital or operational bridge funding for additional unlocked community residential capacity.
Okay.
Okay, section 29. In 2019, there was language in the capital bill to require Dale to issue a rule on involuntary emergency procedures. And there was a decision to move away from use of those procedures in the secure residential facility that's being constructed. So this language is repealing that requirement that Dale adopt those new rules.
What was the subject of the report again, please?
It wasn't a report, it was a rulemaking requirement. Yeah. And there is language in section 3 of this bill that describes what the new secure residential facility will, how it will be designed, and that it specifically won't be using emergency and voluntary procedures. So this is sort of a cross-reference to that.
Just writing this down. Okay,
Section 30 of the bill is amending statute in Title 24 with respect to engineering planning advances. So a municipality can apply for an advance of funds for engineering planning. And this section is expanding that a little bit by allowing those advances to be used for both engineering and land use for public planning for public water supply systems. There's also some new language at the end that says that a municipality that receives this award of funds can use up to 25% of that, the amount awarded, to evaluate land use implication of facilities, including impacts on the state planning goals, availability of housing and economic development. And then subsection D allows for a municipality to contract with an RPC to assist in the administration and management of these planning advances and coordinate engineering services and evaluate the land use implications. It also allows for the costs of this contract to be eligible for reimbursement under this planning advance.
okay.
And then the effective date is effect upon passage.
Committee, just so you know, the hard copies of the language section of the bill has been mailed to all of you as of yesterday.
Oh, good.
You may want to peruse it over the weekend and just figure if you get it tomorrow. But start perusing it and make sure you have answers to any questions you might have about your particular section that you're going to be reporting on. We got one more thing I got to resolve this afternoon, and that is the question of where to get the money from for our walleye guys. Dick, after you and I spoke on the phone, I had a subsequent conversation with Alice. Alice was telling me that the $10,000 addition that was given to historic preservation should be the starting point for whatever walleye money is given, because she feels like their committee would be upset if we left that money in historic preservation, because the trade-off there was that the Adirondack wasn't going to get sunk. I don't know if anybody has any strenuous objection to having me go back to historic preservation and saying we're going to bring you back to what the governor's recommend was. And then we find it that and the balance of 40 somewhere else. But I'd like to first hear your thoughts about taking that 10 grand back from what other historic reserves or preserves are out there.
Okay, if you want to have that conversation, you might as well, I guess. It's, I guess the other part we could probably take out of that, the 2023, I mean, I don't know if you talked about that on some of those issues.
Haven't yet, was going to be happy to do that. And this was another part of that thought process is for the committee, on the first page of your spreadsheet, you're going to see several sections with zeros in the first column. And one of the ideas here is that since those entities are all receiving money in the second portion of this budget process, that money is out there in kind of a, let's call it speculative land.
Yeah, that's a little pork for the state buildings.
None
So
taken.
if we did get money, that would be a good place to start looking. And as I was looking, if we had to come up with a quick 50,000, I would, it screamed out at me on line 22 of my version that there's a whole lot of money going out there for prison door system replacements. 671,000 speculated in the second half of this budgetary process. BGS, how upset would you be if 50 grand came missing from that column?
I'm just trying to pull up the spreadsheet now to make sure that I
What
understand
about the
which.
Cherry Street Garage, Joe, something like that. They got some more zeros down there. They got Cherry Street
Oh,
Garage.
yeah. Well, I could go right down the list of columns and
Yeah.
just take 10 from here, 10 from there, 10 from there.
That's not gonna hurt for 2023, 865,000, 809,000. So you got Cherry Street Garage, you got Rutland Multimodal Garage. Those are all estimates anyway. That's not a firm figure.
Yeah, I see though that Eric is twitching in his chair and perhaps
Oh,
we'll
I
have
have
to
to twitch
ask
all
him
the
that
time.
question.
Another year.
Well, just if you're gonna punch me in the arm, I hope I get to choose
Those
which
figures
arm.
are gonna be accurate anyway. Those are just estimates. Cut your
So-
planning.
I also see Mark has popped himself back onto the screen and is shaking
If
his
history, if history repeats itself, we know those will go down.
Oh, God, yeah, right, yeah.
Hey, Eric, are they asking us to give us more money, or are they asking to take it away? I thought they said to give us more money.
They are trying to take money away from us in this moment,
How do
and
you come
I
up
went-
with, how do you come up with Cherry Street Garage of $863,000 in 2023? Where's that figure come from?
I believe it's because the project is over it's a 3-year project starting this coming July. And it was an expensive one, so that was probably the last of it.
if you were going to hit, I'm choking and not able to pull up the spreadsheet in front of me.
Do it, just
But
do it.
I believe that the House moved some of the door controls money from 23 to 22. Is that right? I think they gave us, they moved up the door controls money. So if we hit that, then we could probably fix it in an adjustment with bond premium. That would be my,
Well, you got Springfield covered in both years 1 and 2, as I see it on line 12.
They can take it out of major maintenance. Don't worry about it. That's nothing. 10,000 out of major maintenance would make a bit of difference.
So I'm suspecting that we have to be itemizing our removals. We can't just go to the bottom line and say you're going to get that number of dollars less. We're going to have
You
to
have to
itemize
choose-
somewhere.
yeah. And Alice had parked that money in FPR, but
I realize that, but then we have to deal with Mike Schneider not getting. his
I know
rustic
you like
cabins.
Snyder better than me. I understand.
We're not gonna touch Mike Snyder. Why don't you revisit all your want list there and come up with, we're asking for what, $25,000? Come on.
All right. Yeah, I mean, yes, sir.
Well, it's
Do your thing, do
25
your
per
thing.
year. You got to make sure it's 50
Yeah.
in total,
Yeah,
so.
God, you think we're talking about $100 million for crying out loud?
I think, just to be clear, I think we're talking $40,000. Is that correct?
It's 50,000 that they have traditionally gotten. So
Right.
we'd be looking at 25 per year. And I don't know if you were online earlier when Dick was saying that Cubby called and was wondering if he could get more money.
I just want to be clear though, you've gotten 10 from you have found the 10.
If we take 10 from historic preservation, which is 10 more than the governor had recommended to them, they only got that 10 because the deal was they wouldn't sink the Adirondack. I'm sort of a little uncomfortable getting that 10, and I don't feel like I have to, but if I have to, I'll go that direction.
Mr. Chair, if the buildings and services can't come up with 50 grand at 25 a year out of a $100 million deal, there's something wrong with the system here.
No, sir, I will find it for you, sir. I
All
just
right.
want to make sure
Sure.
that I make a
God, you think-
decision that is not going to get me yelled at when I get back to the office. I'm
I
gonna
got
find it.
30, I got 32 minutes, Eric. You got that much time to tell me where you want it taken out of.
Got it.
God, you think we're asking for $100 million here?
No, I just couldn't find the spreadsheet. It was pure administrative panic.
Can we rewrite the language for the Williston seal to include 25,000 or 50,000 will go towards this initiative?
Don't.
Oh, stop.
Mark, were you alive in the 1980s?
I was.
There was a band called Aerosmith. Did you ever hear them?
Oh, absolutely. Dream
Did you ever
On?
hear that? Did you ever hear Dream On? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great song.
God, you guys. We didn't even touch major maintenance. We didn't even go there. Come on.
Oh, could you take it out of the Southern State Correctional Facility Door Controls Project in fiscal year 22, please?
Fiscal year 22 Springfield, line 12 is where you're looking.
Line 12, yes.
And you want me to take it, let's see if we can get away with this. Take 50 grand out of that, leave historic preservation right where they were. Does that work?
We can do
Yes.
that. We can do that.
They can come back and ask for more next year, which they will anyway. So what difference does it make?
There'll be an adjustment. Right, there'll be an adjustment anyways.
Yeah, they're gonna be an adjustment anyway.
I like not having to battle back historic preservation because I got other nice ideas I got to get from them later on down the road. Plus, you're talking about getting the money directly from Springfield. That'll go well with Alice.
I was
Well,
gonna say,
And
we had actually requested that money in 23 and they moved it up to 22. So I think that by 23, we can probably reallocate another $50,000 in bond premium or some other adjustment.
Yeah, it's not gonna.
and we thank you for that, by the way.
We do thank you for that. And if you're fired when you go back to the office, let me know. I'm sure there's a good public defender job out there somewhere that you can probably get.
Stop over, I'll buy you a six pack.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm on my
Just
way.
take more money from somewhere else.
I'm sorry, Dick McCormick. Yes, sir.
Eric is not the only person on this screen who's worried about getting yelled at. I've got to deal with the House representative from Springfield here.
It's not gonna hurt the project, guarantee them. It's not gonna hurt the project.
We'll be fine.
Eric, I will make sure I tell Commissioner Fish that you were absolutely getting bombarded right here.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate your support.
And then she's a smart one. She'll go back and watch this YouTube video and get it direct.
She's a smart one. She stays out of this discussion.
Exactly.
Dick McCormick, to somewhat placate you, down on line 22,
Yeah.
they got the same category for statewide projects. So if they don't do something over in Marble Valley, which is one of those places that we're probably going to close anyway, they might
Yeah.
actually transfer some of that money over to Springfield.
Yeah, well,
So
It'll be taken care of, Dick. Trust me.
thank you. I have
it's
great
amazing.
personal trust. No, I have Senator Mazza's personal assurance. That's enough.
It will take it care of. It will be there.
It is
Made
literally
public.
amazing, Dick, how much money they suddenly come up with that has to be reallocated.
Don't go there, Joe. Don't go there. God, let's quit when we're ahead.
Yes, exactly.
All right, I think we have answered the trickiest question of the day.
That's right. I hope we adjourn.
Does anybody have
Or
any
just talk
questions?
right back
Yeah.
into another line.
Let's get out of it.
Exactly. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta quit talking.
That's right. Quit when you're behind.
So Becky, that's a little bit less language change for you because we don't have to worry about section 4 or whatever that subsection was. Because that's just going to get left alone, except that we're going to remove the sentence on the Adirondack. So I think it was 4C that was the Adirondack and 4D was the language that would have had to have been changed. Is there anything else out there that we need to talk about, committee, with respect to the bill? Anybody have any questions about responsibilities or anything of that nature?
When will we report this to the Senate?
Well, first, the bill has to get voted out of the committee. It goes on to the Senate floor, and then I believe it is automatically referred to the Appropriations Committee.
It won't
They
be
will then take a look at it, and then,
week after next.
yeah, I would say the week
Okay.
after next.
Good, so I don't have to practice all
No,
weekend.
no, and seriously, I think we'll have some help if you want from Catherine or something. They'll give us
Oh,
some-
We'll be
little,
asking.
is that right, Catherine? Am I speaking out of turn?
Yes, no, that's fine. We will help you with whatever.
Yeah, they'll give you some little pointers. It helps all of us really, because we gotta condense it and keep it short.
Becky
Yeah.
usually comes up with a summary.
Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the summaries are very helpful, but if you go through the summary and you have any questions.
Yeah.
Obviously, either Becky, Catherine, or Eric are all there and available to help.
And there,
I'll
I have
some-
the summary from the House Pass version that I think is on your webpage, if you want to look at an example of what it looks like, because it won't, you're not making many changes, so it won't be very different.
Okay, do you know how to find that on our webpage, Russ?
Yeah, I do.
No, I don't. Tell me.
Well, you go on to the committee's webpage.
Yep.
And there should be a section called bills and other documents or something of that nature.
All right. That's where it is.
If you click on that link, it's probably in that category.
Okay, thank you.
If you can't find it, Becky will let you know how to get to it.
Thank you.
And then we'll have Denise mail you a hard copy.
Appreciate that. Very helpful.
Denise, I'm gonna have you stay on the line with me, but anybody else have anything else you want to bring up this afternoon? In that case, we can go off YouTube.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You've done a good job. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll
Very
see
good.
how successful I am. But
I-
Denise